The Horizon Zero Dawn review prediction. Hey Zach, we are here to predict the review scores for Horizon Zero Dawn.
It is time.
Yes. Of course, this game is releasing on February 28th in the US, and of course, one day later, March 1st in Europe. But before that, the reviews will hit. And what we do with the review prediction, we already did one for For Honor as well. This is our second one, and we want to do more of them when more games come out, obviously. So when this embargo hits for this game, so probably before the release, there will be reviews up. People that from websites, YouTubers, stuff like that will have played the game. And what will that score be after an hour? So when that embargo hits, all the people posting their reviews at the same time. An hour later, we look at the Metacritic and we see a number there. And we are now going to discuss what that number will be. Will this be a good game, right?
Oh my god.
So this is of course an open world RPG by Guerrilla Games. You know those guys from Killzone. They've worked on this game for 6 years. So when they were making Killzone Shadowfall, a small team on the side was working on Horizon, the concept, what they wanted to do. They hired a lot of new people because obviously they were a first-person shooter studio. They needed people to make quests, RPG elements, etc., etc. So they hired a guy from Fallout New Vegas that could help, of course, with that stuff. And they still have the action combat, because Killzone had a lot of action going on, and we still see that in this game. It's not very like statistic based. Well, you still have to have like different weapons and gear and stuff like that. That helps. But if you don't roll away for that cyborg dino that is coming at you, you will simply die. So you still need some skill. And of course, it's a huge world. It's probably not as huge as a Skyrim or a The Witcher. You have less hours to spend there. But still, there is a lot of stuff going on. Side quests, time trials even. A lot of monsters you can simply hunt on. Or monsters, of course, machines, because they're not like really alive. There are still like animals and stuff like that, but they're just small animals. They will not cause any threats. There should be some sort of dungeons in the game as well. They haven't been talking about that. The story about Aloy, you want to know what happened to your mother, and you're going to find that out, while there's also some sort of gang trying to race machines against the other machines. So sometimes when you play this game, you will see some sort of red thing going on in the machines, and then they're probably aggressive. So you're going to find out what is going on there, what do those people want. And I think that's what you are going to do in this whole game, and of course hunt those machines, and that's what I'm most excited about. Okay, Zach, what do you think? Will this game succeed? Will it be a good game?
This actually really pains me, right? Because I'm trying to predict off of a scale that I usually am much more harsh about. And a lot of people, not a lot, but some people got irritated with my score for Honor, which was 7.5 if I remember correctly. That's a pretty damn score on my scale. Like, if you're up in the 8s, you're great. If you're in the 9s, you're legendary. There's no 10s in my book. There's nothing. There's nothing as far as perfect goes. Go ahead.
You don't give your own score, right? You predict what the Metacritics will be. So on the other hand, that doesn't really apply. So.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying though, is like I'm trying to sort of counteract what I think it might do based off my scale, and then go off of Metacritic and what I think critics, who I believe are far too lax with numbers that they throw around, might give it.
Okay.
And so I did a little bit of research for this one. I looked into Tomb Raider and Rise of the Tomb Raider. Both female protagonists, and both pretty good games. It's obviously open world, not necessarily the most original thing ever either. It's something that's already been done by itself in the past, and then also most recently obviously with Uncharted. But with Horizon, it's sort of a new thing in the sense that it has somewhat of a different flavor to it. It's still an open world game, There's going to be big boss battles, it looks like. There's going to be a lot of stuff going on. The only thing and the only question mark for me is the storyline. And so the gameplay, from what I've seen so far, it looks good. Story, I don't really know. Like, it just, everything strikes me that it's just going to be somewhat generic. And writing-wise, that does worry me for a game that probably is going to be somewhat lengthy. Not necessarily like the most lengthy thing ever, but probably will be more lengthy since it is an open-world game. So what I think they're probably going to rate it it's probably going to be an 8.7 out of 10.
Ooh, okay.
I think. And I base that off of Tomb Raider and Rise of the Tomb Raider getting 8.6s. So I think the story out of everything will probably, I'm not going to say ruin the game, but I will say ratings-wise, it will hurt it, definitely.
Yeah, and what I think interesting about it, I mean, Rise of the Tomb Raider and Tomb Raider as well, the story itself, I mean, the first Tomb Raider was, of course, you stranded on this island, go find out what's going on. It was a linear game, and with Uncharted, of course, the story is also super important. And while I think that in Horizon, it's still the path you're going to follow, just like with The Witcher, for example. But there will also be so many other smaller stories that don't have to do with the history of Aloy and what she's up against and stuff like that. Just a simple one with my brother is gone, go find him, stuff like that. So that you will, even if the main storyline is not that interesting, like I said, we don't really know right now, but we don't have any indication that it's going to be good as well. I think that there are still so many or so much other stuff going on that could distract you from that it doesn't really matter as much as, for example, with the Rise of the Tomb Raider, where with Rise of the Tomb Raider, I'm still like playing that game a little bit here and there. It doesn't grab me. There's like no real thing going on where I think, okay, Lara, what are you even doing here in this island, and what is going on with your family and stuff like that. So, and that's way more important in that game, because that's your only drive to advance in that game for Lara. And with Aloy, there you could also just completely, for example, ignore the story. Obviously, sometimes you have to get back to go on and maybe earn some new XP and weapons and stuff like that. But really, if you just want to ignore that, you can just go on and hunt on those machines. And I think that the machines will really be the star of this game. So that because 6 years in development, that's a very, very, very long time. And obviously, Guerrilla needed that to do this like a complete switch, where they went from a first-person shooter studio to an open-world RPG studio. But also that shows you that they really got the time to put a lot of love in that game. And I think that we already saw this in a lot of the gameplay that you see right now, and also that was like released during the preview event, and that the developers released themselves as well, where all the machines are just doing their stuff in the world. There's just things going on. I think that because this is a completely new setting, this is a post-apocalyptic world, at least that's what they call it. It's new, right? It's not like your typical fantasy setting with your elves or your post-apocalyptic setting like a Fallout game. So I think exploring is also a lot of fun. My concerns, and I think that they will know that as well in the review, and those are things that they could easily fix in a sequel, but right now they were probably like, okay, we sometimes you just have to say, okay, and now it will release, because obviously it was slated to release in 2016. They slightly delayed it by 2 months or even 3. But I think, for example, the lip sync, what we saw right now during the preview events, and you might say, but they are going to fix that. Well, probably not, because a week later, I think even 1 week, it went gold. So they will not let the press play on a build that is like a few months old. It was probably a pretty recent build. So they can't like really fix the lip sync, and it didn't really impact it that much. but it was like something that could take you out of the experience a little bit. But yeah, some Bethesda games have that as well, where because yeah, it's obviously there are so many NPC characters. If you have to capture them all, it would be super cost heavy.
Yeah.
But maybe they can fix the lip sync later. And also the story is also like a big question mark. But against that, you have this amazing combat, and I really think that they really looked at Monster Hunter, because the machines are really important in Monster Hunter. The beasts that you fight, the monsters, are super important. They also are very lifelike, and I think that this is the case here as well. That even if you fought this monster many times, he will still be a challenge, and you will still have to think about things to take him down, or it will still be an intense fight. And if they can like really do that with every encounter, that could really be an awesome experience, where a lot of other
now I'm really wondering what your score is, because I thought I gave it a pretty high score.
No, but I'm like I mean, like you said, for me, if I would probably review the game, and it's hard because maybe the ending is bad, or maybe there is suddenly you hit a wall where it's like a grind game and the monster variation is anything you already seen, so there are not a lot of new monsters, so anything can happen. Obviously, from what we've seen so far, we base this on that, and also from the what I believe Guerrilla Games is capable of. Because I think those Killzone games, while they're not as popular as, for example, the Halo was on the Xbox, I still think those Killzone games are pretty good. I didn't really like Shadowfall, but yeah, the Killzone 2 and Killzone 3 game on PS3, really love them. So I also look a little bit at that, and I trust them. I believe that they can make a good open world RPG. But like what you said, maybe my score will be higher, but I also want to be realistic here, because I think it really depends on what are the critics going to compare this with. Like, are they going to put this up against The Witcher, or are they going to put this up against a Tomb Raider, some sort of Far Cry type of game? Because it's really a combination of all of that. So that will be super interesting, and obviously how are they going to weigh the story?
Yeah.
But I talked to a lot of people that went to the press event, like the Dutch press. Sadly, I didn't go, but and they were all like super excited. Read a lot of reviews. I heard a lot of people talking about it. I think people are pretty high on this game, and I think that while an 87 could still what you said could still mean that this game is getting 9s, but maybe some people are giving it an 8. So I think you have a pretty good one there, but I'm gonna go a little bit higher. But I think that because this is a first game, because it is Guerrilla Games' first open world RPG, like I said, I trust them, they can do it, but they probably still have some things to learn, and not everything will be smooth and stuff like that. I don't mean in terms of like there will be many bugs, but we don't know exactly, but I still think that this is like the groundwork for something that could be way bigger in a sequel. So I think that we're looking at an 88. So some people will give it a 9. Some people will really praise the setting, because it's really something new. And come on, if we look at the gaming landscape, we need something new. So
I
we
could have
need
sworn
new
you were
stuff.
gonna give it such a higher score, because
No.
you went really in depth, and I give you that, because you explained a lot more than I did as far as like what you see about the game, what is its strengths, weaknesses, stuff like that. I was going purely off of sort of just like the little bit I've seen, just as like a casual consumer of sort of like the trailers that they release, stuff like that. I'll be honest, I haven't watched every single trailer that's out there, because I think that it should come to me, and I've sort of taken what's came to me, and there's been a good bit. But I also looked at the numbers, and I thought you were gonna go in the 90s, and I was thinking to myself, okay, there's no way, because Metacritic's a really interesting beast. With The Last of Us has 95%. We have Killzone, the highest rated Killzone that I see just briefly searching is Killzone 2 with a 91%. So they are capable of getting up in the 90s. With Witcher 3, that's a 93% is the highest one I'm seeing. That was the PC review reviews for it. So that was a 93%, and that's known as one of the best games of all time, and it's the most awarded game of all time. And that's only a 93%. So I kind of like Metacritic here. You know, they're not just throwing tens around because luckily it's an average, but you know what I mean. And then Tomb Raider obviously is an 8.6. So like, yeah, I mean, I think that our scores are pretty realistic for Metacritic. Like, obviously, they're not our own personal scores and what we hope that the game does. You know, I think I wish every game, you know, aimed to, you know, be the best it possibly could. And I wish every game was a 9, you know, out of 10, you know, up in the Witcher, you know, scores and stuff like that, because that would be great for all of us, right? But it's just not realistic. And so we have to weigh sort of the weaknesses that we see just on the surface there, what might be a weakness, what we hope isn't obviously a weakness, but it might be a weakness, what looks like a huge strength, and there's a lot of strengths that you can see from the trailers of Horizon. I mean, look at the freaking graphics, they look amazing.
Yeah, we haven't even talked about that.
Holy shit, they look great. So there's a lot of strengths there. There's some question marks because it's a new IP. So yeah, I mean, I think I think we're gonna hit the nail on the head here, Jordan. I think we will.
I think so as well, and I really think that this franchise has the potential, because I really think that this will, I mean, the hype is enormous for this game. Obviously, PlayStation exclusives sell really well for Sony, and this one is a new one. It's an open world RPG. They tend to sell as well, as well. So I really think that there will be a sequel, and I really think that they will then. They have a great groundwork. They have the machines already. They have the ID, and well, I think that what the game will be when it will release at the end of February and the beginning of March in Europe will be great. It will be awesome. But I think that when we play, we will see the potential of what this franchise could become, because I think it could become this Metacritic 9. But right now there are still some stuff, some things that they need to work out, and maybe we are wrong. Like, maybe they nail it like the first time, but still, I think that I also saw some gameplay, for example, with some there are some bandit camps. The AI was not that great. There were some weird things going on there, so that gameplay didn't look like that exciting, or anything that is comparable with, for example, the fight against the machine. So there are still things that they could simply improve, and that's not bad. That's okay. That's of course understandable. But I think an 87, 88, and also why I did, of course, an 88, because if it is an 89, I will still win, Zach. And if it's an 86...
Yeah, and that's really the thing, and that's why these are fun, is because we're going who gets it the closest, and that keeps us honest. You know, obviously we can't be hyper fanboy about it, because then we're gonna shoot too high, and then the other person's gonna win. We can't shoot too low, and that's the cool thing about this. Man. And yeah, definitely. And when it comes to Horizon, you know, even if it gets an 8.7 or 88%, that's still a hell of a game. Like, the caliber of games that are in that range is just astonishing. Like, there's a lot of great games there, and I think a lot of people get hung up that certain games don't reach 9s. Like, 9s aren't the magic number of this is the best game ever to exist. Yes, it does mean that the game was a hell of a game, but 8s also could be a hell of a game too, just with minor things that drug them down. You know, it's kind of like if you take a very long quiz and you get a couple, answers wrong, that drags your score down. You know, nailing something 100% or close to 100% is really hard to do, and especially for a new IP. But it can be done. God of War for PlayStation 2 got a 94% on Metacritic. That's something that can happen. The Last of Us over 90% on Metacritic. So this can happen. I hope it happens. I hope I lose this. I really do. Yeah. I want the game to be
You can
amazing.
only win, really.
Really, exactly.
Yeah.
but yeah, I mean, when it comes down to it, I'm happy either way. If it gets 80, 87 or above, I'm happy. So
yeah, cool. No, I can't wait. I'm super interested to see how well in advance Sony will send out the review copies, because it's a huge game, but normally they're also like kind of dodgy with when they send these review scores. Of course, with the order, the problem was that the game you could finish the game in 6 hours, so the whole playthrough was on YouTube well before the game was released. and yeah, that didn't really help the game. But yeah, people already played like this game more than it took to finish the order, like at press events. So I think that we will be fine, and hopefully we will get the reviews well in advance, because that also shows you that Sony is like really banking on this game, that they know from
They're
their
confident.
internal reviews, because yeah, confident, yeah, because they're also the insider Shinobi that has been right many times before said that the game reviewed really well internally. So then they just hire some review editors that will not publish the review on whatever blog or they write for or something like that, but just share their review and their thoughts with Sony and Guerrilla Games, so they know where they stand. So they know, do we need this huge marketing push? Is it worth it? And from what we heard from Shinobi, he says that it's doing really well. So interesting stuff, awesome stuff. I really can't wait for this game. It's like one of my most anticipated games.
Yeah, me too.
So thanks a lot, Zach. We will do way more review predictions in the future, and of course for other Horizon content, you can subscribe to the channel, like the video if you did. Let us know what you think the Metacritic score for Horizon Zero Dawn will be in the comments down below, and we will speak to you next time. Goodbye.
Goodbye.